He is one of the esteemed alums of the College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and the Director of Communications, Media, and Broadcasting for the Omaha Supernovas. Geoff Exstrom, young man, how are you? And thanks for your time.
I'm doing great, John. It's great to join you once again. Love talking with you and excited to talk some supernovas and some professional volleyball.
This is year number 3 for the Supernovas and year number 3 for your work there. Is that correct?
That is correct. Funny enough, my first day back in November of 2023. So when we're recording this, it's my 2-year anniversary. Feels like 5 years. But my first day was the schedule release of the first season. So baptism by fire is what I always like to say. That's how I got introduced.
Welcome to the business, young man. Now you get to work 7 days a week, 12 months a year going forward.
Yep,
Yep.
that's exactly right.
So, what is it you do? I gave your title, Communications, Media, and Broadcasting. What does that mean?
Basically, you just kind of throw a splatter of paint at the wall and it goes everywhere because I do a lot of things. Everything from uh, doing press releases, our relations with the media, uh, website content, updating our app, so anything that you see there as well. Being basically the logistics man and helping organize all of our broadcasts, both radio and TV. We're the only professional volleyball team to have multiple different local TV partners, as well as the only one to have a full-time radio network. So I am in charge of organizing, make sure that's kind of all up and operating throughout the season, and then just kind of pitching in with marketing and collaborating with kind of everybody in all different facets of the organization to make sure we're putting butts in seats and putting on a world-class operation that has been number one in the world in pro volleyball attendance the last 2 years.
Okay, now just between us, all right, just between the two of us here, and you don't have to admit this if you don't want to, but how much of all of these jobs did you have to learn on the fly?
I mean, most everything probably aside from media relations. It's not like I went into it not knowing anything, but as our team president Diane Hall likes to say, we were building the plane as we were flying in it,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was really the case throughout the year in terms of negotiating and getting all of our local TV and radio partners on board and kind of working with those crews to make sure they're set up for success and putting out any fires that come with it. I think what was really instrumental was my experience as a beat writer for Nebraska volleyball and baseball at Inside Nebraska for my first year and a half out of college from UNL. And so being able to experience the media landscape, especially here in Nebraska, from a reporter side, and then going over to being the communications director for an organization, I think just really set me up well for success because then I can know what reporters and how media operations work and anticipate those needs before some of those things kind of arise.
Can you describe for us the attention that volleyball gets in Nebraska? The people who are in Nebraska understand this, but maybe the folks outside, give us an understanding of the depth of interest in volleyball in this state.
So I don't really think you would see, especially in the news cycle, big volleyball news, for example, John Cook retiring. That was the biggest story that day that it was announced, and it was by far the most dominating news of that week. And that across the entire state, and you would not get that anywhere else in the country. Add on to the fact that this past season, um, there was about a 3-day stretch in early August where we, the Supernovas, announced our inclusion in the newly formed Major League Volleyball, the hiring of our new coach, Luca Slabe, and hiring John Cook as general manager. And it just completely dominated the news cycle across the entire state. You couldn't turn on a local newscast without seeing all of that news being portrayed, and you just don't find that anywhere. And that's not even mentioning the attendance figures. where the Supernovas #1 in the world in pro volleyball attendance the last 2 years, 19 of the top 20 U.S. pro volleyball single match attendance records. And I mean, of course, it all goes back to the stadium match where um, Nebraska was able to put 92,000, 93,000 folks inside Memorial Stadium for volleyball. So put all that together and you have the volleyball capital of the world.
You average more than anybody else. What is that average?
So just short of 11,000 last year, which was a 13% increase from the season before, which was around 9,600.
And you're talking about like Spain and Turkey and I don't know,
Mhm.
wherever else I don't know where the great homes of volleyball are around the world, but you're talking about all of those places as well.
Yep, exactly. Europe, think about it in that the volleyball scene is very similar to international soccer in terms of how it's built around the world with all these leagues in all these different countries. It's not as like obviously organized and as popular as soccer, but it's kind of structured the same way around the world. Um, Italy, Turkey are really those countries that have probably the most support of those that aren't the United States, but their top teams average about 5 to 6,000, and part of that is their capacity in the arenas. But you come over here, the Supernovas, and we have access to a wonderful facility at CHI and we're able to pack the place. So it's just a very standout quality of being in Nebraska.
Yeah. So it used to be that if you wanted to play professional volleyball and you were an American, especially, you'd have to play somewhere else in the world. And then a couple of leagues get formed in the U.S.
Mhm.
Are players going elsewhere in the world and playing here on different calendars?
So some have that ability. So for example, I believe it's in the Philippines. It's called like the PVL. I think there's one more letter in there, but they have their league currently is running right now, and I think it'll end this month. And so then that allows those players, because there are a few MLV American players playing, they can do that, then come back over here and play in the winter and spring season in MLV. That's not typically the case. Most pro teams have the same calendar, and so you're talking starting December, January, and running through April and May, because in the beginning to mid portion of May is when you have the national team schedule begin, especially the Volleyball Nations League, which is basically the Olympic tournament when the Olympics aren't going on, or the world, or when the World Championships are going. So that's a big event. So the pro schedule really builds around making sure they finish in time before that begins, but not overlapping with NCAA volleyball, because that in and of itself is obviously pretty big here in the United States, and even I would say a little bit across the world. Volleyball fans still pay attention to that too.
You talked about Major League Volleyball and its MLV, and it merged with the Professional Volleyball Federation, which is what the Supernovas were in the first 2 years of their existence. Won the championship in year one. So you have a merger now, and you have 8 teams here. But there's also still a rival league, Love Volleyball, and I think they've sort of rebranded themselves a little bit too. I'm not sure exactly. And not that you're in the business of promoting another volleyball league. My question is this: is how do they exist, coexist, conflict, go after the same players? What's the dynamic there between these leagues?
Yeah, so obviously it's kind of the same player pool that they're kind of each league is chasing after. I would say MLV is much more, I guess, friendly to the college players because MLV is making a big investment in um, getting those college players to stay and play in MLV in the United States versus going overseas. League One, otherwise known as Love, they don't invest as much in terms of bringing those NCAA players from college right to the pros, and it looks like that's still going to be the case. Um, but the biggest difference between the two is the structure and the ownership structure. MLB is just really simple. It's any other model that you see across the United States in terms of the big leagues. Each individual team has their own owner. They have their own unique in-venue experience, and they just run kind of operate individually in competing against each other to win championships. League One is structured as a single league entity, where no franchise is really owned by the team. They've started selling some of the franchises, but they don't have all of the control of what you would see in MLB or any other like league in the United States. And so that's the huge difference. And I think that's what makes MLB just so much more appealing because it's something that people understand and really encourages competitiveness amongst teams. And that's where you get to see those rivalries in franchises go to the top. Celtics, Lakers, Yankees, Red Sox, Bears, Packers. That is where, if they didn't have that environment, then you just don't see those rivalries and franchises grow and grow throughout the years. So that's, I think, certainly an advantage for MLB moving forward, especially as you start to see some of these top NCAA players transition to the pro league, and that talent just kind of rises with it.
As long as we're in the business of talking about others, what in the world is Athletes Unlimited then? What is that all about?
Yeah, so I like to describe it basically as a real life version of fantasy sports, where you have it's really individually tracked. So players, they're part of a team each week, but what really counts is like their own individual statistics because dependent on what they do, like a kill is worth 8 points, an assist is 5 points, etc. And they play they play 12 matches total, 3 each week, and the teams are decided by 4 captains who draft 10 rounds of players. And the captains are decided by the top 4 in the league standings. So it really just like jumbles everyone up. So if there's like one team that like dominated one week, then it's really they're going to be split up based on the format. And so over the course of the 4 weeks and 12 matches, based on how each like player does statistically, those points add up to the final standings, and then they get like bonuses and payouts based on how they finish.
Holy Toledo. Any of your players involved in that?
Yes, we had the second most of any pro volleyball franchise. We had 6, including 3 finishing in the top 10, with Reagan Cooper, outside hitter. She's returning for her second year with the Supernovas. She finished as runner-up in her first year with Athletes Unlimited. And that is funny enough coming off an MVP performance at the NORCECA Pan American competition over the summer for Team USA. So she's
Holy
just had
cow.
quite a summer.
So how many matches a year would a professional volleyball player have to play to make a decent living? A lot?
Yeah, I mean, when you break it down, MLB, it's 28 matches. If you're a champion at maximum, you're looking at 30. If you factor in Team USA, just for whatever sake, say 12 more. So then you got 42. If you do AU, which is about 44 players, and those are kind of like your top players. So that's 12 at minimum, or that's actually how much they did. So that's about you're talking like mid 50s in regard to how many matches they would play per year.
Yeah, well, okay. They're professionals.
Yep.
Look at how many matches soccer players play around the world
Yeah.
between friendlies and league matches and international matches for your country. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way it goes. Geoff Exstrom is the Director of Communications, Media, and Broadcast for the Omaha Supernovas, the 23-24 champions of Professional Volleyball Federation, and now one of the 8 members of Major League Volleyball, MLV. That would be Omaha, San Diego, help me, Columbus, Atlanta, Grand Rapids, Orlando, Indianapolis, and Dallas.
You
Correct?
got it.
And the Indianapolis team calls itself Indy something. What is it?
Yep. Indy Ignite.
Indy Ignite. Now, how many of those teams were competing with Omaha in the previous iteration?
So that would be including Omaha 6. So Grand Rapids, San Diego, Columbus, Orlando, I guess Indy too.
Was Atlanta in that group? Did
Atlanta,
you say
yep,
that? Yeah.
yep. Atlanta's in there. And then I'm thinking one, oh no, I don't think so because we had Vegas is not continuing for this year at the very least.
Hmm.
And then Dallas is brand new. So Dallas is really the only team that the Supernovas didn't compete against in the previous iteration.
As we record this in early November, the draft is in later November. Yeah, you have a draft, correct?
Mhm.
And then the
Yep.
season opens the first week in January. Is that what it is?
Yep. January 8th, we kick it off at home, third straight year against San Diego for opening night.
So you're talking about, I don't know, what, 16, 18,000 people you can get into that arena for a volleyball match. Is that right?
Yep, we're going to be targeting a sellout for that match. We have a bunch of local stars back. Merritt Beeson, former Nebraska player, Norris Sis, former Creighton. So bunch of Supernovas debuts, and it's kind of even though it's year three, there's a little bit of a year one feeling with MLV. So just tons of excitement we're seeing both ticket sales and just interest amongst the state.
I can imagine a lot of young girls, and I can imagine a lot of young women in your audience. But what generally is the profile of the fan of professional volleyball?
So it's very much an advertiser's dream. It's families. So you're talking about that could be young families. So the parents kind of in their mid to late 30s with a couple of kids that are 12 and under. I would say that's your our number one demographic. But it really spans, you're talking about the number is, I think, over 60% of our fans have a child present with them when they come to our matches. So very family friendly. A lot of families come, but you also are just kind of spread all across the board. We have a crowd that skews on the older side when they're empty nesters, retirement age. And then you also have a little bit of our demographic where you have those um, single people that are in their young 20s, early 30s as well. But I would say it skews more towards those families and on the older side and empty nesters.
You mentioned Merritt Beeson played a couple of years at the University of Nebraska after transferring from Florida, and Norris Sis from Creighton. Just mentioned to me the other day by a volleyball person about what an absolute leader Merritt Beeson is and what a team player she is. How'd you guys get her to come back to Nebraska to play for you?
Well, it's makes it a lot easier when John Cook is able to
Aha!
dial up Merritt and say, "Hey, it's time for you to come back home." So uh, that certainly, I think, expedited things. But she was always going to be a target of ours following her rookie season in Atlanta. We tried. I don't think it's any secret that we tried to trade up to draft her. It just didn't work out that way that year with the draft. But great things come to those who wait, and so we're pretty excited to have her on board. She's been a dream to work with, as she's been in all of our other stops, and I think it's gonna be pretty exciting to see her run out for the first time on January 8th, wearing those Supernovas colors.
And Norris Sis from Creighton, and you've had other Creighton players, and people who may listen to this in I don't know, Carson City, Nevada, or Enid, Oklahoma, or something, may not understand Creighton's place. They know Nebraska. Nebraska is a national championship contending volleyball team, and again, as we record this, they look like the best college team, and I don't know how long they are. Absolutely loaded in 2025. Haven't won the championship yet, but they're absolutely loaded. But Creighton has been a program that has been top notch for a long time. The second best program in Nebraska, the best program in the Big East for a long time, and just a fabulous imprint on volleyball in Nebraska, right?
Yeah, I would especially say so in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a partnership that we have with Creighton that we just love having because obviously they've become a little bit of a pipeline now at this point with
Mm-hmm.
some of their players. We'll have two active. Allison Holder used to be Allison Witten, but she got married this summer. So she was a former libero for Creighton, and of course Nora. So I think Creighton really elevated the profile that volleyball excelled outside of Lincoln within the state of Nebraska, and I think really grew that volleyball following in Omaha specifically. Because if Creighton doesn't become that power, I don't think us as a franchise are in the position we are in right now with the sport that we have. And I think that just really extends kind of across the whole state. That you need that. It's kind of like Michael Jordan needs it. And I don't want to compare it to they're just like not as good, but it's like Michael Jordan needed his Scottie Pippen, and I think that's kind of how Creighton helped combined with Nebraska really elevated the profile of this state when it comes to volleyball.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, for those folks who are saying, ask about John Cook, damn it. He's mentioned it a couple of times. John Cook, four-time national championship coach at Nebraska in 25 years, retired. Danny Busboom Kelly, one of his former players and assistant coaches. She was at Louisville. She's now the head coach at Nebraska. John Cook then became general manager and part owner of your team. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Geoff. What does John Cook do for this team? What's his job? I know it's general manager, but what does he bring?
So just want to kind of start out by mentioning that there's been seen a few stuff out there saying it's very much a ceremonious title for him just to get on board and get tickets sold, and that's far from the case. He is heavily involved on a day-to-day basis when it comes to helping manage our coaching staff and collaborating with them as well as our team president Diane Mendenhall and making roster decisions. I mean, we were fun story is that I will always remember this year's free agency period because we were in our conference room that we called the war room, and we were stashed up in there for probably 10 hours or so. We didn't leave until after 10 o'clock at night. We had John, who does this hybrid because he lives in Wyoming. So we were spread across, I believe, 4 different time zones and about 4 or 5 different states because John was in Wyoming. Lucas LeBay, our new head coach, was in California at the time. We were in Central time zone. And then our operating partner, who has been instrumental, Kirk Thompson and co-owner, he was in Florida at the time as well. So we're all bunched together, and John was wheeling and dealing on the phone, talking with players, helping negotiate deals, and so it was actually really, really fun to see him in his element in a much more intimate setting versus listening to a press conference or anything of that sort. So he's very much involved, and I know right now he's working with Luca on developing a training camp plan and just how training goes to help develop this Supernovas team here and when training camp gets underway on December 1st. So he's very, very involved. He's going to be in and out of the state like he has been, but he's by no means sitting on the sidelines. He is fully into it.
And the important thing is that the communications, media, and broadcast director was allowed to sit in that room for all of those 10 hours, right?
Correct.
And you learn a lot, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, just interesting to see the interactions with agents and different players. Because, I mean, for example, you had for some of the players we're talking to, their agent was in Sweden, and obviously when free agency went live, which was about 4 o'clock p.m. Central, in Sweden, it's the middle of the night. So it was kind of hard contacting that specific agent and kind of dealing with those different dynamics where they're in different time zones too and across the world. So it was just very insightful to kind of see how how like kind of that goes for a sport that isn't, on that elevated stage with like NBA, NHL, and those big leagues yet. So very, very insightful and an experience that I know I'm always going to remember.
So you're learning the business, you're learning how to do all these media, broadcasting, and communications jobs better. I mean, you know how to do them, but you're learning more about it every day. Now you're learning how to run a business, a volleyball business. What do you want to do? What's next? What is this big picture view? You're very young still, of course, and it's probably an unfair question, but where do you see yourself fitting in this big picture here?
Yeah, I mean, I think just being able to see this side of how a pro franchise operates, I think hopefully moving up in terms of maybe a VP of operations, or I know I do broadcasting now, but kind of having decisions there in broadcast operations. It's very unique because despite what my title says, it's like I'm very much everywhere and I have like a lot of influence in a lot of different areas. And so I think moving in a position where I still have a lot of influence in those areas as well. So like assistant athletic director or another pro franchise, again, just moving up the ladder with operations or marketing and whatnot. So just kind of moving up in that kind of ladder of whether that be an athletic department or another pro franchise eventually, I think is kind of where my eyes are kind of right now. But I mean, if you would have told me I'd be doing this when I was graduating in college back in 2022, I would have been like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. Um, so I just sometimes it's just not worth guessing because you never know where you're gonna go.
From Kearney, Nebraska to the world. That's what it
Yep.
is. You could be
Yep.
in Sweden working one of these days, you know? That'd be okay too, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, my background is Swedish. That's my uh, deep heritage. Yeah.
I didn't know that, but and
Yep.
I'm sure you speak the language fluently.
So unfortunately, I couldn't say one word in Swedish.
Well, and the good news is all the Swedes speak English beautifully. So
See.
there you go. Hey, this is really off the wall, and I'm sorry, and it's kind of an inside baseball thing, but I've been thinking about this. How do you all communicate now? Because the idea of a press release is so 20th century. How do you tell the world what you're doing? What's the process of that? I know that's a goofy question, but what is it?
Yeah, so it's a combination of utilizing your personal relationships, and and again, going back to what I even said earlier in the interview, is being able to work within the Nebraska media scene had already established those connections with the media members that cover the Supernovas on a routine basis. So utilizing those, but also taking those steps to reach out and ask, like, hey, I want you to be able to spread this news. What in my process can I do to make it easier for you? And that could be as simple as just, I'll use our schedule release as a great example, is putting out an embargo release about 12 hours of the night before the release the next morning. So just sending an embargo to allow different outlets just to get a story ready. So when that drops, it can just be instantly sent out instead of being, I guess, setting up media to be proactive instead of being reactionary. So, and I think that at the end of the day, if you're able to be proactive with your media outlets, that's just going to result in better coverage in terms of these press releases versus making them react to your news. And again, sometimes you can't control that. John Cook News, that was just very much just had to put it out there. I couldn't really give any advance notice. But the more you can do that, I think is where you're going to be setting up yourself for success.
One of the things young athletes do really well, and especially volleyball players, is TikTok, and some of your players do that as well. Does the club do that as well, or do you kind of let the players sort of brand and sell themselves, and then you all win in the process?
So I know that's something Nick Bolby, our director of brand strategy, he's brilliant and does a phenomenal job. I think that's an area where he's like certainly want to grow because that's just our jobs at the end of the day is getting butts in the seats and selling tickets. And
Mm-hmm.
TikTok has just never been that social platform where you see a lot of those transactions. It's much more X and Facebook. So TikTok is very much for the content and building brand awareness than selling tickets. So that's kind of where those decisions have kind of been made in terms of focusing on one more than the other. Um, but again, I think that's still going to be big and taking, that next step in terms of your brand building.
Yeah, but Merritt Beeson on TikTok, and then the connection is made to the Omaha Supernovas, and she's
Hmm.
great. She's happy to be back in Omaha, and it's wonderful to talk with all the former Nebraska fans of hers, those kinds of things. But so the connection gets made. It may not be direct, but that connection gets made.
Yep,
Yeah.
very much so. Because I mean, you're talking. I mean, Brooke Nuneviller, she has over 200,000 followers on her TikTok, and so that again, that's 200,000 fans that we can hopefully reach with Omaha
Yeah.
Supernovas. So yeah, just very much so that kind of expands not only the player's brand but also ours too.
Is that 200,000 more than Geoff Exstrom has on his TikTok account?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
very
see,
much a viewer rather than like a creator on social media.
So what if you could sort of narrow it down to what is the greatest what is the most important thing you've learned about doing this business that you might not have known anything about before you started? Does that make sense to you?
Hmm. Man, um, it's kind of a little bit of both of yes, kind of learn on the job. I don't know. It's weird that never put low standards for yourself because when you talk about where we've been able to accomplish a lot of different things is that we continually push and innovate in our internal standard is just so high that it just elevates all the work we do. And I think that's where we have found so much success because I'll just unlike maybe some people out of the state who may look and be like, oh, of course they're successful. They're in Nebraska and Nebraska's crazy about volleyball. Yeah, but we can't average 11,000 people in the building by just showing up and not doing any marketing or any concentrated effort to grow our brand. And so I think with having the standard that we do have with ourselves internally has pushed us to really reach those goals and elevate and continue to expand upon what we built. And so um, I would also say that you're always going to have fires when they're unexpected.
You never prepared for that. Are these standards that you all have bottom up or top down?
Very much top down. We wouldn't be where we are without our team president and leader, Diane Mendenhall. Of course, she was the first ever, or the third ever director of operations for an NCAA volleyball team, first for Nebraska. She was brought over uh, from John Cook, so she
Mhm.
joined John in his first season in 2000. She went on to be the radio commentary broadcaster for 16 years with John Baylor, but she eventually moved up through the athletic department. Was then working for the Lincoln City Foundation, and then eventually found her way to be the team president for the Supernovas. And so it's very much her drive that really influences us to continue to push. Because I mean, you go outside the state and it's just like volleyball's treated differently. And especially when you kind of go around the different league, it's very much unique what we've been able to build. And part of that is all the support and everything we've been able to do up to this point. And that starts with Diane at the top, kind of pushing us in a great direction.
When you what is it about this job that gets you out of the house every morning to go do it and be excited about it?
So it's very much having influence in all different areas of the organization. And when I make this comparison, I'm not speaking down or anything of that sort, but when you're an SID at a college and you're in charge of 3 different sports, you're doing match notes, you're setting up interviews, helping on match days and whatnot, which is all great. But when I'm with the Supernovas, I'm able to have a direct influence in the partners that we're signing with TV and radio, writing radio scripts, helping decide the marketing strategy and how we go about those things, working directly with these superstar coaches and players, as well as these different TV personalities that come in. So it's very much being able to kind of spread my wings around a whole bunch of different areas, including ticketing. I don't, when you get into that college space, you really don't have too much influence on how to advertise with tickets, but have that ability here. So it's just being able to learn all different facets of the organization and knowing that I'm able to see my impact directly on match nights when our season goes. Uh, so that is like really gets me going every day. Just being able to see the direct impact that I'm able to have and reflect on and be able that's really really cool.
But you earn that privilege to be a part of the action, right? It isn't just given to you, snap, snap, Geoff, you get to do that. You have to earn that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Through
very
hard
much
work, through
yeah.
innovation, through your intelligence, through your dedication, through your willingness to work long hours. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why
Yeah.
but you earn that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't do something like this if you want a really well balanced work-life balance. So it's a lot of hours, but again, like going back, it's like when you're able to see that direct impact, it's like, okay, that was worth doing.
How do you manage then that work-life balance?
I think it's really just taking advantage of that slow time during the off season, and so just like really taking time to kind of recover and regroup and do some other things to take your mind off it. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm always kind of thinking about how I can elevate things on my end and my process and different things I want to try. Uh, so it's not too much of a work-life balance when it comes to that, but I think up to this point, I've been able to do it pretty well, and things are still going on the up and up.
Well, good for you. Starting year number 3, and the director of communications, media, and broadcast for the Omaha Supernovas, former champions of professional volleyball, now in the newly formed Major League Volleyball, MLV. And season starts early January against San Diego, and expecting a big crowd. So if you want to be there, you better grab those tickets early at the CHI Health Center in Omaha, Nebraska, in the epicenter of volleyball in the world, right here in the state of Nebraska. And I'll say that again until somebody tells me otherwise. So thanks, Geoff. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, John. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
We will. We will. And we may just do it right here on Watch the Media. I'm John Shrader.